Oh, he's got some great stuff. I mean, the world is really starting to make more and more sense. Australia has declared that kids should not be allowed to blow out birthday cake candles. And who doesn't agree with that? I mean, that's just... Chicago limits police response to 911 calls. They won't show up for certain things like robbery. Eugene, Oregon, man sues a female IRS agent saying that the agent coerced him into sex, and he's suing. Please, I hope he wins, because if he does, I think we all have a case, because we're screwed by the IRS once a year. Like any real bad marriage. Once a year. The president is our boss. He's more like our dad, says Chris Rock. We'll give that story to you today. Also, Judge Napolitano is going to be on. He's the author of the book Theodore and Woodrow, all about progressives and how they've destroyed our country. Tonight we're talking about libertarianism, and I would urge you to watch it before Karl Rove gets his hooks into us again. Make your decision on which direction the country should go toward. And also we have General Jerry Boykin on the phone, because there's a really interesting story now coming out. You remember the guy who came to the Family Research Council and went in with a bunch of Chick-fil-A bags and was going to shoot everybody there? Well, there's some new news out about this, and it is quite remarkable. General Boykin, how are you, sir?
Glenn, it's good to be with you.
Tell me the story. Refresh everybody's memory here in case they don't remember.
On the 15th of August of last year, Floyd Lee Corkins came into the front lobby of the Family Research Council and reached in his backpack and pulled out a 9mm Glock and shot our building manager, who was trying to stop him. Shot him in the arm and was eventually wrestled to the ground, and his pistol was taken from him. When they searched his backpack, he had 15 Chick-fil-A sandwiches and probably close to 70 rounds of ammunition. And he was there, obviously, to kill as many people as possible. But that was the event on the 15th of August.
Okay. Now, the press, of course, didn't really say much about it. I mean, they did this story for a couple of days, but then they pretty much buried it. And we were thinking, well, Chick-fil-A. So he's making a political statement. This is an attempted political assassination, mass slaughter.
That's right.
And they didn't say anything about it. But there's more.
No, and he, by the way, he pled guilty to terrorism charges yesterday. This was the first time since the D.C. terrorism law came into effect that it has actually anybody's actually been prosecuted for it. And this was a terrorist act, and obviously he was a volunteer with a local LGBT organization, and what motivated him was the big flap over Chick-fil-A when Dan Cathy stood for traditional marriage, and he was determined to come in here and kill as many people as possible, and he admitted that yesterday, Glenn, at his hearing where he pled guilty and cut a plea deal. He admitted that he was going to kill as many people as possible, rub a Chick-fil-A sandwich in their face, and then he had 3 other organizations that he was going to go to and try and do the same thing if he survived here at the Family Research Council. And I think Tony Perkins and I were probably his primary targets.
Okay, so he was going to go in and he was a gay activist, and he was going to go in and kill people because Chick-fil-A said, we believe in traditional marriage. And he was going to go slaughter a bunch of people. But how did he pick? Right. How did he pick your organization and these other organizations in case he survived? He was going to go to the others. How did he do that?
Well, he admitted yesterday that he went to the website of the Southern Poverty Law Center and to determine who the hate groups were, because SPLC has identified a list of hate groups and individuals that they consider to be hate mongers. He went to their website. He discovered that the Family Research Council was one of those listed, And he then printed a map to the Family Research Council, came over and did a reconnaissance 2 days beforehand, and then on the 15th of August came in shooting.
Okay, so I just want to see if I have this straight. The press made a very big deal out of Sarah Palin running an ad that says we're going to target this district. But the press doesn't find it interesting that a man who is now admitted to terrorism, who was a gay activist, who is disgruntled by somebody's freedom of speech, goes out and buys a bunch of Chick-fil-A and gets his guns, and then he goes in and he's going to kill everybody there, and he's targeted 3 other places, and then we find out at the trial he admits that he found this from another sham organization, a liberal organization. It was just a front, and they went where they are making a list of targets, and the press doesn't seem to be interested in that.
Absolutely not. And the only thing that was covered in the press was the day of the shooting, and generally speaking, after that, it got no coverage whatsoever. You covered it on your radio program, and I was with you right after the shooting. But generally, the media paid no attention to this. They suppressed it, in fact. And yes, his information came from what I consider to be a very reckless organization, that being SPLC, who has no legitimate authority to call anybody a hate group. But
they call David Barton a hate group leader. David Barton.
That's right.
They have no credibility whatsoever.
They have no credibility, but they are very close to this administration. They are praised by the Department of Justice for their acts of teaching tolerance and a variety of other things. But the reality is, and I don't think most Americans realize it, they have no authority to label anybody as a hate group. And but they get away with it because they have the support of the administration to do so. They're even invited into our school systems to teach tolerance. Well, at the same time that they're teaching tolerance, they are labeling people hate groups, which is now clearly resulting in groups like the Family Research Council being targeted for violence. So I think they are promulgating and promoting violence against these organizations that they don't like because we have a different set of values.
Okay, so General, here's something that I'm concerned about. I believe that this is coming, and it is going to become more and more frequent in our society. We have seen a rash of shootings, just senseless shootings. And then we saw Chris Kyle murdered over the weekend. And, you see these things. And, I was talking to my friend Marcus Luttrell, and I said, are you concerned that this piles on, for nut jobs? I mean, people like you, General, people like me, even David Barton, that can be gunned down in the streets by nut jobs because they either believe it or they've been wound up by people like the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Well, that's right, and I think it's very clear in the case of Floyd Lee Corkins, his motivation really came from the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. Look, I live under threat all the time, and I know that you do as well, and now people like David Barton, who is, one of the most wonderful people that I'm associated with, they are now threatened, and I think that you can't conclude anything else as a result of yesterday's hearing with Floyd Corkin, that this is having an impact on these people that are off-center to begin with.
Thank you very much, General. I appreciate it. God bless, and stay safe.
God bless you, Glenn. Thanks for all you're doing.
You bet. Bye-bye. It is pray for people who are in the spotlight. Pray for quite honestly, pray for our SEALs. Our SEALs have been exposed by this administration. They've been exposed by the press. They have been exposed overseas by our enemies, and then you've got nut jobs who, have you seen the stuff that's been said about Chris Kyle from Americans, that he was just a heartless killer and that he deserved it? Look what Ron Paul said. There's a lot of bad, crazy people out there, and we have to do our best to not pour more hate into it. And it's hard. It's really hard. But pray for those people. By the way, the Chris Kyle Family Foundation and the Fitco Cares Foundation, we've been collecting money for Chris's organization that helps veterans and for his family, because you would not believe the vultures that have come out. It is now up to $335,792. We are putting together a trust for his children. So his children and his wife will be taken care of, and nobody can get into that trust except for the family. So they have lawyers coming after them. They have Jesse Ventura coming after them and wanting to take all of their money. And this is not a rich family. They don't have anything. He gave up his rights and his profits to his book to give it to charity. So he didn't make any money on that book. I would ask that if you would, the SEAL community is very tight. And at his funeral, which is happening here Monday at Dallas Cowboys Stadium, the SEALs are going to be there. And these are the guys who have watched over us, protected us. They're the ones. I'm sorry, it wasn't the president. It was the Navy SEALs that went in there and got Osama bin Laden. If you would, it will send a great message to them if you would donate and help their family out. And at the same time, some of the portion of the proceeds are going to go help the veterans out as well. So it will go help those who are struggling with their return home. If you will, go to mercury1.org, mercury1.org. I'd love to see us really, really take care of this family so they don't have anything to worry about. He gave everything for us and then came home and gave everything for his fellow vets and died trying to help one. Senseless, crazy, and a true American hero.